All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to Table Talk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, The Bella Gamer, with my co-host Glue Boy,
Hello.
and it's a new year. Literally, just the first day of a new year, and we're starting off with a stream, which is kind of fun, honestly.
Yeah.
No major plans, and if my hair looks greasy, it's because I have a baby. That's my excuse
Yeah.
for everything. Also, she's just going through teething, and it's been a bit of a nightmare.
I can imagine, yeah. It sucks. You're getting brand new teeth in, and like that has to go through a lot of material. Doesn't feel good.
One second, I'm going to disable my camera. Because for some reason, I'm no longer able to edit my exposure when the camera is being used by another program.
That's really dumb. Oh shit.
Why is it? It's so weird. I can't edit it now either. The heck? Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna look super washed out. The program used to work. I don't know why it no longer does. It was probably just a dumb software update, or it's Windows, or both.
Yeah, it's just the annoying part where they add some weird levels of friction into things that really don't need it and take away control of the thing you own. My most like a boomer ass like issue, but I get really mad at like, oh, you bought this thing, well now you got to download all the software for it that we can rip away, or oh wait a second, you actually have to buy a subscription for the thing you purchased. Oh, why don't you download the app for your lawnmower? I hate it. It makes me so mad.
Yeah, I mean the same was like for Photoshop and all that back in the day. Back in the day, you could buy it for like $300.
And
Now
I
it's
hate Adobe.
subscription only. So
Yeah, I despise Adobe. They're the worst. They also keep really wanting me to add all their AI fun stuff to my editing. I
yeah.
refuse. I will not let a robot touch my shit.
But yeah, you can pry my lawnmower app out of my cold dead hands. No,
I
but
got so mad at Home Depot once out with my fiance. I was just getting so mad because I turn my head and I see a new appliance and it's like the only thing I saw, the only thing I'm like, okay, I can see it. And then I thought about it more and I'm like, this is still stupid, was I saw a grill. It was a big old grill
Yeah.
and it had an app. It was like, you can look at the temperature from somewhere else. I can take a minute and walk over at most. Like, oh man, I have to go outside and look at the thing I'm cooking.
yeah,
Like, what are
I
we
mean,
doing here?
I'll give that one a pass, because if you're slow cooking something with your grill, it can be really nice to be like,
Yeah,
all right, let me
it's the
see,
one.
you know, especially if it has like a thermometer that you can attach that has that, because I've seen those before. There's like those thermometers that can send to your phone, you know, like the internal temps.
Yeah,
Um,
that is like the one where I'm like, I can understand this more because in that situation, 100%. If I'm like just cooking up some burgers or like the more common thing people are using a grill for, not as needed. And I hate it. It's just like when I saw the lawnmower, that is one where I got really mad because why do you need an app for your lawnmower? What is that doing? Why? It just that so many appliances, so many tools nowadays are just they're making it worse, and you have less control of it, and it's so aggravating.
yeah, that for our printer. Our printer did not
Ugh.
come with a connection for the computer. Had to be connected through the Wi-Fi or through an app. and you would connect it through the app, but then there would be an update or something would happen, and then you would lose access to your printer until you go through the annoying process of connecting it again. And it's just like, I would much rather be inconvenienced with the fact that I have a printer that I have to plug into my computer or whatever, than to have a printer that it's optional to plug into my computer, but they're trying to make it connected with Wi-Fi, because like it's just annoying. It's so frustrating. And the thing is like, what drives these markets are tech bros who just need to have the newest, most annoying tech possible, and they're the ones who have too much money. And so it's like the market bends over for these people because they're the ones who give them money. So it's like, what can you do?
It is so annoying, and like, it's the worst genre of person. Like, you got all you at home, you don't hate tech bros enough. It's just the most like, what if we did this with AI integration? Think of the printer of the future. And then it's just worse. It's just objectively worse in every single way. Where, for a lot of things, I'm sorry, but a pretty simple mechanical solution is oftentimes the best one. Because here's a fun anecdote, like, related to that. At my job, a project that was being worked on is fixing up all the fun black streaks you get on a gym floor.
Yeah.
And it was something we were all talking about, because we were like, yeah, what's the best way to remove all those black streaks? And I'm curious, do you know what the fix for that is? Like, what is the best one going on, like, even now, 2026, as of today? It was something we were all talking about, because we were like, yeah, what's the best
God,
way to
what the heck?
remove all those black streaks? And
Oh, wait. Stream's not muted.
Stream's muted?
Was not muted. I watch my streams live in case anything goes wrong, and I was hearing a voice, and I was like, what's that voice? And it was our delayed voices.
Oh, okay.
On my other screen. I don't know specifically. That's a very weird thing. I would imagine it's some kind of scrubber and maybe like a soap solution.
It is a tennis ball.
Oh.
Yeah, like that it's that kind of thing of and it's been the solution for so long, because like we were talking about it, and like one of my coworkers was like, we have to have come up with something. Like, this is the cheap solution. Like, there has to be something. So as the curious man I am, I'm like, you know what? That's a great question. Let me look this up. And it is still like, after, like, in the modern day, they're like, yeah, we've tried, but the best solution's a fucking tennis ball on a stick. It's like, huh. It's one of those kind of things where you're like, we found a really easy, simple, cheap solution, and iterating off of this is going to only make it more complicated and annoying. The only thing we've done is, like what you said, a soap solution. There's basic neutral cleans that can help deal with the stubborn ones. But, like, it's not necessary for all of them. It's just, it makes it a little easier because we've gotten very good at making soaps. And I think that is such an interesting thing. Sometimes, you nailed it. You nailed it in one. We don't need anything more.
Yeah. But, you know, that's the thing. And I think people are nowadays really discovering who runs markets, because AI is almost universally hated in most things by the general public. So why are all these fun mix? Why are all these companies like focusing on AI and working on AI? It's because the biggest markets for things, especially technology based, are businesses, not the general public. That's why NVIDIA is really like focusing on supplying for AI companies and signing contracts for it, and why their graphics cards are going to become more expensive, and why Asus is now going to sweep the market because NVIDIA is dumb.
Thank God. It actually is fun because like it's such an interesting cross section where like everybody I meet that is active online despises AI. But when I've met people who are not super online, they all love AI. Like it's that kind of thing. It's purely like the exposure to where people are like, oh, look at this fun little thing I got. I got a little helper in my phone. Like my dad, for example, not very online, loves AI stuff. We're planning a vacation in April. He sent me a travel itinerary in ChatGPT, and I just saw he did that. Looked at it, I'm like, I'm not touching that. I'm good. Uh, I had a serious conversation with a lender about like financial stuff, and he just when I mentioned, oh yeah, I make side income from YouTube, not super much, but like this is what I do. He immediately was telling me about how I should integrate AI to get more money out of YouTube, and I had to very politely tell this guy, we'll see. Instead of I would rather die than do that. It's such an interesting cross section because anybody who would make AI a big successful thing, I think, is aware that it is a scam. It benefits like a small group of people, and then everyone who actually like deals with AI on a business sense is like, oh, this sucks. Because did you hear about Microsoft with like Copilot
Yeah,
making
yeah,
yeah, and then they're scaling it back because their big Copilot push, like 90% of users aren't using it.
yeah.
Just so funny.
Yeah, because it's not a thing you can market to businesses really, as a public facing thing. It's just it's interesting, and it's the way things are going to go, and overall people's talk about AI is so undeveloped because there's a lot of things that, one, we were already using AI for before the AI boom, and two, there's a lot of really good uses for AI that, you know, uh, that people are instantly like, oh no, like getting upset at Expedition 33 for having a bunch of AI images as like a map asset for
I
a
think
placeholder thing.
yeah, for
And it's like,
placeholder stuff, it's a bit. Honestly, I think the misstep that was made was simply that like they said absolutely no AI was in the game, and then it was like, okay, so you lied about that. Placeholder or not, like you could have just said, oh yeah, we used them for placeholders, but we removed it.
well,
And then like
okay,
when
do
it was
you
caught,
do you think lorem ipsum is AI?
no, that's just like a placeholder text.
It's
And that, no,
generative text.
I'm not saying that it's like that man Expedition 33 shit game because of that. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying like a chunk of it is more of like their response wasn't as great as it should have been, where it would have blown over for at least normal people, not everyone who'd get super pissed and just wants to be angry at them if they said, "Oh yeah, guys, we use this," and then, "Oh shit, we left placeholder in. Thank you for telling me. Like we totally fucked up on that. Thanks."
Well,
Like that's the good answer.
from the position of a creator, though, when someone's like, you're using AI in your game, it's kind of a big blow against the creativity and the work they put into it, that people are thinking that some of their work is false, and that's not true, especially for something so minuscule as a like a stand-in for like posters, just to get the vibe of a scene for creating and stuff like that. Like it's the absurdity of being upset at lorem ipsum. It's on the same level effectively. So they had a right to be upset, because a lot of the people yelling about it, and I doubt you saw even a quarter what they were receiving over when it was discovered.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course.
People were decrying them, saying, "Oh, they used AI. They used it in assets and all that kind of stuff." And it's just like they worked hard. They worked themselves to the bone for that game, and it's so beautiful, and it's such a good game. And have a bunch of people get upset over one small thing over their entire game, and in a situation where they were already generally getting hate for generally sweeping the Game Awards, like, I don't blame them for how they acted, and people need to really chill when it comes to the whole thing, because I'm gonna be very for real. If it's a small map asset thing, I don't care if it's Gen AI, as long as it's not like directly ripping someone's content with a few changes. Like if it's just, this is what posters should look like, based on whatever, you know, I don't really care that much because it's not important. It's not a big part of the game, and it's it's a part of the game that's supposed to be more of a vibe than anything specific. And
Yeah, my issue when it comes to Gen AI is always just the is being used as a replacement for a human being, and also my deep-seated hatred of the idea that art and creation in some way is going to be taken. And it's like, now you're not making decisions, you're acquiescing a decision made by something else that's honestly just regurgitating like information and data. If it's a placeholder thing that's meant to be temporary, yeah. Like, my only critique when it comes to Expedition 33's use, like, team is oh man, the mostly inexperienced when it comes to like working in big industry, didn't have a perfect PR response. That I hope that in the future they've learned how to set up a good PR response. That is my critique for it, because I also don't super care if they use AI stuff for like explicitly placeholder. I don't want it in the finished product because I think it's lazy, and it shows, I think, a real lack of care. But if it's like a tiny thing that was left in as a mistake, yeah, it's accessible. That's totally fine, because then you can just be like, ah, shit, thanks for catching. Like, in that extent, I think it's a little crazy to go super, like, guns a-blazing scorched earth for a mistake in something that was only intended for a back end. And anything else is purely like, because there are good uses for AI stuff. I think like coders have made some good points that it's really useful as being like, hey, how do I do this thing specifically? Not code it for me, but like, hey, how do I do this thing? A lot of the other uses of it, I think, are not as great. Favorites are the lawyers who decide to use it and then it just hallucinates cases.
right,
And they bring that to court.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things about AI, especially when it comes to like informational AI, that is really broken. And there's a lot of aspects of generative AI where it's like it's being used as essentially artificial fillers for content, or sometimes it's the whole thing. It's just like food, you know. It's just like how many companies out there just put shit or non-food things in food as much as possible to fill out the spaces between actual food bits. Or cheese is one of those other ones where it's just like, how much of this is cheese and how much of this is cheese substitute. And I'm definitely not trying to vouch for AI, but there's a lot of aspects to the whole conversation that just makes people seem dumb. It makes people seem like they were told that too much hydrogen dioxide is bad for you. And so they keep saying like, ah, man, all these companies putting hydrogen dioxide in all our products, when it's like, it's water. It's water. Like the thing with like Expedition 33, and the reason why I don't think they need a perfect response for that, is people were just being upset for no reason. It's essentially lorem ipsum. It's just in image form, you know. It wasn't even images that were depicting specific things. It was just, this is generally what a poster looks like. Like, it wasn't using specific images, characters, all that kind of stuff. It was a visual like filler, essentially, and it was not meant to be there at all. But even if it was, even if they sold it out in the game and whatever, I don't care, because that's not a thing where I think artists should have to, you know, spend a lot of time and money making posters to make it feel like you're looking at a beam with posters on it, you know. And people are just so irrationally agitated. I'm not gonna say angry, because angry would indicate they thought about it any more than like a surface level thing, but agitated at the idea of AI versus like its actual application and use. And I think it's something that is not going to get better until people just forget about AI. We're going to find a new thing to be upset about and everything, and these minor AI things are going to become more acceptable, which it again makes things more silly. But you know what? it's not it's not a channel about AI. Let's talk about us and tabletop, because it's our new stream of the year, and we just spent like 20 minutes talking about AI.
Yeah.
I guess 15 minutes, but unless you want to have any final say-sos.
Oh no, because I'll at least say my line in the sand for anyone watching, is that if it is being used as a like little temp placeholder thing, just as ease of access, like whatever, sure, totally good. I will not, and I doubt I'm going to move on this position at all in the future. Is actual like generative AI inclusion into art, I think is an actual horrible thing that will occur. And when the first AI movie drops, I'm gonna be pissed because ew, gross. I don't want this to be a thing. The techie future people are like, imagine your NPCs are powered by AI. That sounds awful. They all speak the same, and they all have like these annoying cadences and like ways, and it sounds like a game I could cheese instantly. So what's the point of playing it? Because if you know how a LLM works, you can really easy manipulate it. So like I don't like it. I don't care if it's gonna get better in like 10 years or whatever. I want my art made by humans because I care about humanity, and I like art as an expression of a person who made it, not the robot they were like, yeah, that's fine enough. That'll always be my stance, no matter what medium it is.
Okay. But yeah, so tabletop. Last year was genuinely a really good year for tabletop. That was
one we kept hyping up for a long time too. We kept being like 2025 is the year.
Yeah, I mean, I made my predictions, and guess what? I was right for most of them. If anything I was wrong about, I underestimated how well Daggerheart would do.
Yeah, because I don't think we would have. I don't think there's any signs that it was going to do as well as it did beforehand.
I mean, I thought it was going to do pretty decently because Critical Role is just like... Critical Role is kind of like one of the cornerstones of D&D at this point in time. I mean, they have now 2 best-selling Amazon series of a D&D campaign, you know.
Yeah.
Animated series, I should say, specifically. And they're bringing in Brendan Lee Mulligan for their newest campaign was just only a big brain move. It's just combining 2 groups of the most favored TTRPG groups out there. And Daggerheart,
like people are enjoying it too.
Yeah, and Daggerheart is the broken down synthesized vibe of D&D without any of the baggage of Forgotten Realms or any of the prior D&D products. Of anything, it's a really good new age D&D where people who get into it don't have to worry about some lifeless loser telling them why kobolds shouldn't look the way they do, or why they're upset that orcs aren't the same that they were 20 years ago, or something like that. Like, it's a clean break to enjoy all the things you like about D&D without any of the baggage.
Yeah, it's just the hope is a situation where you can be like, like me, honestly, where it's like Daggerheart is not my vibe. Like for a setting of fantasy, it's not what I'd go for. So I wouldn't go out of my way to play it. I can now play a different thing instead of trying to make the one size fits all. And honestly, from what I've seen on Daggerheart, having not personally played it, but talked about it a lot and at least read through it, it does seem like a game if I had to teach somebody who's like, I really want to play a tabletop game, and like, this is the exact vibe I want. And they describe that kind of fun, Critical Role, or just like the vibe of D&D. I'm like, hey, what if we tried out Daggerheart? That feels like it'd be a really good jump for people. If that becomes like an in the tabletop just medium, I feel like that's a positive. It's a positive to have really good entry games.
I mean, I actually don't think it's a good entry game.
Oh.
Funny enough. The fear and hope system puts on a little bit of extra narrative baggage onto things. Like, what is a thing that succeeds with hope function versus success with fear, or all that kind of stuff. That's just something you don't have to worry about in like base D&D. And then their combat system, which isn't bad. It's they run combat like a normal non-combat scene in any other TTRPG. Like, they remove some of the rigidness of combat to try to make it flow better, which I think is fine. We just don't have a lot of history or experience with those kind of systems, so a lot of people are stubbing their toe on it. But uh, the it forces the GM to have to do a lot of extra work because they have to more monitor how things are going and cut in with the enemies more appropriately, and the players have to be sure that they're allowing other players to participate evenly enough, which for most groups isn't a problem as much as a lot of people like to make it out to be a problem. It's only a problem in people's heads more than anything.
It's always a fun bit where it's like, are you planning to exploit a system like that? Is that your intention when you're saying it, or are you inventing the most evil person to sit at a table that like you wouldn't invite to your table?
It's not even evil, it's just annoying people. They're just like, oh, imagine all the people who are going to do this wrong. It's just like, okay, but that's just your imagination. I'm sure there are people who are going to do it wrong, but they're also the kind of people I probably wouldn't play with often.
I imagine it's a healthy subsection between a handful of people who would be like, no, I'm the main character, and the other people who, if you said, hey, make sure you're letting other people participate, they'd be like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was doing that.
Well, and people are just inherently organized, so yeah. Everyone's gonna be like, all right, I took my turn, I'm gonna wait till my turn comes around. If anything, most of the time players are afraid to talk because they're afraid of doing it too much.
And they're afraid of being the person that's stepping on everyone else's toes.
And I've experienced that way more than the opposite. So, but that's the thing. Like, Daggerheart is interesting, but the major thing is a lot of people understand roughly how D&D works, even if they never played D&D before. They understand what hit points are. They understand what turn-based is. And it's a system that doesn't ask a lot when it comes to narrative because it's just a very mechanical system. Daggerheart removes some of that with the hope of allowing a free form experience for people who play tabletop more often. So I wouldn't say Daggerheart's a good first game, but I would say Daggerheart is a really good game once you got your feet a little wet and you've been playing for a few months, and now you want to play something that is a little less structured but designed to be a little more fun.
Honestly, one game that I hear thrown around often by some tabletop fans is like what they prefer to introduce people to are like completely new to tabletop games. They're like, I know the idea of a D&D, I've heard the name, but I want to try and see what it's all about. I hear Call of Cthulhu thrown around a lot because of just how easy the game is, as like it's not that intensive on the player side to just get an understanding of what does a tabletop session look like, and then like moving from there.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about Call of Cthulhu, especially because outside of America, Call of Cthulhu is the D&D of tabletop.
Yeah.
Like, in Japan, in Europe, most places, Call of Cthulhu is like one of the most run tabletop games. Though I will say it's at least barely more than D&D, because in a lot of these places, a lot of people still play D&D as well. But Call of Cthulhu is interesting because Call of Cthulhu is, it's not the standard, I guess, fantasy role-playing game that we're used to in like video games and all that kind of stuff. It's the actual tabletop storytelling game where the characters aren't supposed to be crazy heroic or anything like that. They're just people trying to survive the craziness of, Eldritch horror. The whole point of Call of Cthulhu is playing a character and playing the game, and that's why in a lot of other places when they think tabletop they think Call of Cthulhu rather than D&D, because D&D feels too much like a video game, but Call of Cthulhu is much more a tabletop RPG.
Yeah. And like I understand it in that aspect too of like if I was going to introduce somebody to a thing and maybe they're not super familiar with a lot of fantasy stuff, like the most nerd thing they engage with is like movies and TV. Where I feel like a lot of people at least know what Lovecraft is. And I think it's an easier jump to be like, "Oh yeah, it's like it's the 1950s or 1920s." It's like, "Okay, I know that." And like then there's some Lovecraft monsters. Like, okay, yeah, madness. I know the name Cthulhu. I've heard it before. Uh, and then just adding in of like, yeah, and then you're playing a character. Oh, you don't even have to come with a full character. What if you just played like yourself? It's like, oh, what would I do if a big scary monster came at me? I feel like that's a really easy push. Especially, funnily enough, I brought my dad already today because I like this anecdote of just my dad tried earnestly long time ago. I think he said it was in the 80s to play D&D. And he couldn't get into it because he couldn't immerse himself in the idea of like I am in a fantasy world and like I'm just a guy in a basement with some other nerds. Like what's the point? I don't really get it. But I feel like that might have been an easier jump for him if he's like, "Hey, all right, you're playing yourself and like it's basically a big hypothetical of what you're doing with like some extra spooky things going on." Because my dad's the type of guy to be like, I hate anything animated. Why would I watch it animated? I want to watch real people do it. I feel like that's the same kind of principle, just put in your imagination, maybe.
Yeah, which is always such an interesting take to me because it's like I can't watch a story unless real people are acting it out. As if who's doing the story makes a story any better or worse.
Yeah, it feels like it's that just a weird, annoying element that if it is animated, it is for children.
Yeah, no, I mean preconceptions and biases are always gonna plague people, about anything. And in Japan, it's pretty much a 50-50 between. Well, it's not really 50-50. In Japan, from last I saw, Call of Cthulhu was still the most played game, but Sword World is pretty high in contention. But Sword World is also kind of, especially in more recent years, Sword World is kind of like a coin flip between do you play D&D or do you play Sword World, because you get a lot of the same things but in slightly different ways between the two. Funny enough, in China the biggest TTRPG is Call of Cthulhu, and it's not even close.
I'm honestly looking up if we have a lot of data on it, because I'm so curious what other metrics we have. I found out that there is a big survey that was done, if literally on a website, I don't know how accurate it is, maybe called D&D Research, and it's just okay, that's 1,000 people. It's not the craziest amount. Trying to go through and pick out like based on which country, like what type of game and type of play do people enjoy. Oh, that's actually a fun graph. They out of 1,000 people they surveyed in 2021, they have the 3 pillars: role playing, exploration, combat. And as people get older in like the survey, role playing becomes a less important aspect for them, and exploration is a bigger pillar. Yeah, it's a the graph they have here is like for age group under 18 to like 18 to 24. Role playing is about 75% like the most important pillar for them. That's like the 75% most their stock, with exploration being the lowest for a younger audience, and combat being a little bit bigger. And then once you get to 55 to 64, exploration is about looks like 50%. It's like a 50-50 kind of split. That is interesting. I think that's actually a really interesting metric of how tabletop audiences have kind of changed over time.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think that's a pretty standard thing in most markets too. I feel like, especially if you look at the grognards of the TTRPG field, like most of what they value is it's not like who you are, it's more what you're doing. And so they value things more like, okay, does the world feel gritty enough? Does it feel good enough? Does it feel like I'm actually achieving anything or doing anything? Like the reason why Shadow Dark, thank you Isopodian for the sub. We appreciate you.
Oh, that sounds good.
It's more about like, what am I doing? What am I accomplishing? That's why you get all these grognards who hate mechanics that keep players alive, for instance, or anything like that. But Shadow Dark, that's what I was talking about. Shadow Dark is like, they have a torch mechanic that's based on real world time. So your torch will last so many in real world hours. So it puts pressure on you to keep going, even when your characters are like suffering from exhaustion or lack of resources or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, I found a really interesting set of statistic, actually. Roll20 has a bunch of stats that they post every quarter called the ORR Group Industry Report.
Yep.
This is really cool, and it's literally just a compilation of how many people are logged in as like, I am playing this game. And this is from 2020 because they haven't done it since like 2021.
Yeah, which
but I want to know like the new information. But yeah, as of 2020, I don't imagine it's changed like a crazy amount.
It's changing now, so
I think it's definitely like the number where it's right here. 53% of players on Roll20 are playing 5th edition D&D. I definitely can see that smaller, but I would be genuinely surprised if it still wasn't the biggest in the pie chart. Then after that, uncategorized to 14%. But the second most popular game played on Roll20 is Call of Cthulhu, any edition. After that, Pathfinder from 3.8% of people.
Yep.
Pathfinder 2nd edition 1.8. Then it's Warhammer, the Warhammer Fantasy, Wrath and Glory 40k, just a Warhammer role-playing thing. Then World of Darkness, D&D 3.5, Starfinder, and then Star Wars. Those are like the biggest games people are playing constantly.
And Nicholas, there's not really good spaces to find a lot of this information. It's usually random polls found in obscure locations. Tabletop's so uncentralized that, like, what can you do?
Yeah, it's sad because, like, I would love it, but the way that you actually handle a lot of this is surveys, and that's why I'm happy I found this Roll21 because it's literally just using site data, like what people are actively playing. It's not a survey, because in like their latest one, 2021, oh yeah, the numbers didn't change at all. 53% of players are using 5th edition at the end of 2021. Though they do have Tormenta is rising really quickly as a which I think that's a Spanish offshoot of D&D, right? I think we discovered that a while ago. Yeah, it's really like World of Darkness, Call of Cthulhu, and like Pathfinder are always on that list, which is not super surprising.
Yeah, and Call of Cthulhu is probably not higher because it's not a game that you would need grids or anything as often. So
yeah,
people are just using it as a convenient dice roller more than anything in that case. And I'm sure a lot more people are either playing together in their, where they play it, or they're using some other like Discord program, and then they're just rolling dice and telling each other what's going on. So it's it's very fascinating, and Call of Cthulhu is just one of those games that draws a lot of people in because it's a narrative. It has a higher narrative priority because your characters aren't superheroes. You're not trying to slay the dragon. You're trying just to not die, usually, or go insane, which is about the same thing. And two, it's because it's much more modern, even though it's technically like mid 1900s. It's much more modern, and people have a much easier time jumping into that roleplay wise than they do jumping into a high fantasy, Tolkien-esque type setting.
Yeah, because I think it's a lot easier to jump into a setting where it's like, oh, it's like real life. I know this. Or I've seen this hundreds of times in movies, where then people will just have a different level of experience when it comes to fantasy.
I remember we played Vampire, and one of the things that everyone said pretty consistently was, it's really nice just playing in a game that I feel like I understand the world better, and just, it's like, I understand buses. I understand getting on a bus and going somewhere. I understand this is Seattle, and I know where things in Seattle are, so it's a lot easier for me to envision what's going on.
I think it also is just a thing that I believe it would make things easier on a GM to have that moment where they can realize, oh, wait a second, Google Maps. And so imagine having a really highly detailed informational map of your game setting at like a click of a button.
Yeah,
and
right.
like you never need to come up with a store name again. You can just be like, fuck, what do I do? And you scroll into a Seattle street and you're like, you just pick a business.
Yeah. So, you know, it's very fascinating, and a big part of tabletop is very much like behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
It's only becoming more public as people are becoming more not international, but like friend groups are now expanding across larger areas than they used to in the past. So now more people have friends that live in different states, even different countries, under different time zones. And so the necessity for this kind of stuff just is becoming more and more common. But I do know plenty of people who still play predominantly with people who live in their local area. And like all those people going and playing Adventure League, those numbers aren't being statted really anywhere other than Warhorn, and even then barely at that. And I'm sure it's much the same for Call of Cthulhu elsewhere. You know, there's just areas where like, oh, there's people who play and no one keeps track of it. So it's really hard to know. One of the best ways to know is to see like how many books are being bought by each country, and that's how a lot of these numbers are mostly generated, is looking at that sales data, because in most places at the very least it's public information. But even then it's hard to know, especially in China. So
yeah, it's annoying when because some companies are just not open, because I know Paizo, for example, is not an openly traded company, so they don't give us that information on sales metrics. Meanwhile, Wizards of the Coast, I believe, is.
Yep.
And so in that case, you can get the direct data for D&D, and depends then if the publisher for Call of Cthulhu is. That's what I'm sad about. I would love to read the financial data of Paizo, because I'm a nerd. And honestly, it's really useful if you want to like get some good predictions. Read financial reports like that for companies, because they'll straight up tell you what they plan to do. It's great.
Yeah.
Been a lot of that with Games Workshop, where people are like coming up with insane theories, and it's like, if you just read the quarterly report, man, you'd figure out what all these projects, like where they are on a timeline. It's actually pretty easy.
Well, the thing with China is, for most of their entertainment fields, China was, at least up until more recently, considered more or less like 10 to 20 years behind like the US market when it comes to like entertainment. Like there's a lot of Chinese viewers who love American movies and stuff like that. Granted, in the 2010s, Chinese media really like exploded, and it's been just snowballing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where now Chinese media and entertainment fields are starting to be more competitive on the world market. And that's why we had like To Be Hero X, you know, which was a smash hit for animated like shows. And there's been a few others like Lord of Mysteries and stuff like that. So in China, there wasn't really people producing TTRPG content. There probably were very niche fields, but not very widespread, not very common. And it's only in more recent years that they're kind of starting to do their own stuff. Uh,
There's also a lot of like other bit, not even in this. For the people that don't consume like anime, video games, like and all that, it's still permeating. I think my social political read of it is I think it is a lot of pushback in a younger generation that is more and more distrustful of our government, and so they're pushing back against like a lot of what is perceived as full propaganda. And so
yeah,
by that, they're embracing a lot of very openly Chinese things. As such, a big meme for the past few months is "You found me at a very Chinese point in my life," and like that
yeah,
has just been a thing. Uh, and like just going on like TikTok, for example, is it's now like opened up. There's been a bigger merge between like China and American just people, and just talking, communicating in this aspect, and it's permeated into meme culture. So it's just a bigger openness to engage with a lot of aspects of China, not just like the nerd content. But
well,
I at least am excited because I like cultivation stories, and I think that there are a lot of really dope stories that come out of China, and I like the idea of engaging with art I might not have beforehand.
yeah, I'm the same way. I've been into cultivation for a little bit now, like probably like 10 years or something like that. And Jianxia is really cool too. Uh, and China had stuff like that. The thing is like China's state of being for the last like 50 years has been very, very strange compared to American standards, because their government is a lot more heavy-handed in a lot more things, and they have a much more strict work culture and stuff like that. So there just wasn't as much free time and ability to do stuff, and even ability to connect. But one of the great international barrier breakers is markets, and if things can sell, people will put money forward towards it. And so that's why we got like Chinese movies in the first place, like Jackie Chan and everything like that, was because everyone was seeing these people doing crazy flips and everything. They're like, oh, that's really cool. We think you should make movies in America. And they did. and
Yeah.
there was that cross contamination between the two. So, over the course of time, behind America, but like not too far behind America, Chinese movies have been getting crazier and crazier, and doing more and more interesting stuff, and all
A
kinds
big
of crazy
aspect
things.
is also because of it's Hong Kong is responsible for a lot of it, because
Yeah,
Hong Kong being in the political situation it is in, it is able to get around a lot of the rules that China imposes, especially on art. Because I'll talk up a lot of Chinese like art, games, shows, like stories. I think they're really good. The thing I genuinely really don't like is I do not like forcing other pieces of art to, I guess, censor itself or change for different markets. I'm less into that, and I think a lot of the rules China has for art is really strict and
it is.
unnecessarily. Like
Yes.
it's a little goofy. Hong Kong was able to get around that because they don't have the same rules, which is then where a lot of it trades. Because you're still getting all the same cultural input and creatives and people just in Hong Kong, and now they can do something. This is why literally the genre was known for a long time as Hong Kong action film, because they were all
Yep.
made in Hong Kong and then exported out of it. And it turns out they're really sick, like because they're great. And I hope that lessens as time goes on, especially as like the cultures overlap. Because I would love it if like we get more art, but if all the rules are like, well, now that we're all merging as a market, sorry guys, you cannot show skulls anymore. No blood, no real like dying on screen. I think is another rule. Uh, I'd be less into that. But if it was a nice, fun merging of culture, I'm super into that.
Yeah. So, kind of to wrap everything back to TTRPGs, China just hasn't had an ability to produce TTRPG content. There are some, and I've heard there is like a cultivator esque style game that's in the works of coming to the US. I can't remember. I watched a video on it not too long ago. Um, because there's this Chinese guy who's really into TTRPG stuff, and so he goes over from time to time and kind of like talks to people and stuff like that. Um,
Oh, apparently the first commercially published Chinese tabletop RPG is called Xia.
Yep, that's the one that I was talking
Yeah.
about. And that was not too long ago. That started coming up, and it's coming to the U.S. Relatively soon. So
Yeah, because it's that specific thing they say where it's commercially made,
yep.
which then is like, okay, so then it's just this is a medium that hasn't been touched super much, or it's been a very niche thing, super niche.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because other people are saying even before she was a thing, like analyzing through the idea of a pen and paper RPG isn't something that was really in China. It's something that it seems like it came over from the West, and then people were like, "Ah, fuck, this kind of rules.
Yep.
We should we should get into this."
Call of Cthulhu. That was the biggest one, biggest breakthrough. Yeah. And then D&D when that started hitting big, but it's just in a lot of these kind of places as well, work culture plays a big part of it, and there's a lot of people who have very little free time, and so imagine trying to get a game together when no one has any free time,
Ugh.
So that's just how it is. So, but yeah, I mean, things are starting to open up. Unfortunately, as hard as China has tried to over the last decade, their people are learning more and more about the rest of the world through things like Bilibili and all that kind of stuff, and the younger generations are starting to get sick of the traditional styles of Chinese life, and so things have been loosening up because it kind of has to, because there's like, what's it called, there's this big thing where just like a bunch of Chinese people are just starting to just become homeless because they don't want to participate in the system anymore, and they just want to lay around. It's like the lay down generation or something like that, and it's causing a lot of problems. So
yeah,
it's
funnily enough, there's other, I mean, it's happening all around the world a lot. It's just the development of the internet is making a lot of younger generations kind of realize that there are other options, and like other people don't deal with these same problems, and then ask that question of like, why do we like kind of put up with this? Because I forget the exact country, but it's around in the Middle East. There is a country that has a lot of those like purity laws, like a lot of them. Women can't dress like this in public, no drinking in public, like a lot of those. I think even no music in public is a thing. And they're being broken constantly, and they're now, because like it's that situation of so many young people are breaking these laws openly, that it is impossible for the government or the police to crack down and enforce the law. So these laws are like basically being forgotten. It's been going on for years. Like after COVID, like lockdown kind of lifted, that's when it started being just, why do we care? Why let's like party and dance in public. Let's have fun. Open up the community, and like the streets are lively. People are having a great time, and it's kind of seems like it's a big positive. I wish I knew the exact country off the top of my head, but it's happening around the world.
I mean, it's not
putting up with this stuff.
Quite so clean as that, because unfortunately with any new movement there's always counter movements, and
I mean, yeah, of course,
and all kinds of stuff, but it's been interesting. And another thing as well, the reason why China's been able to open up, especially a lot more in the last decade, is because the government has started noticing that China can make money in more ways, and that's been kind of one of the biggest reasons why things have been loosening up. Because before, China was a predominant exporter of resources, goods, electronics, all that kind of stuff. So they had a high value in factory workers and people who produce things and all that kind of stuff. But now we saw with like Black Myth Wukong, and now we're seeing with their animated departments and everything like that, they're realizing that Chinese culture is becoming kind of like a world hit. There a lot of people are very interested in that kind of stuff. So they're starting to loosen up on a lot of that kind of stuff and open up and allow more people to do that, because it brings money in, and it brings a lot of money to China. And it's kind of one of the reasons why America's kind of in a lot of trouble, because America was kind of the provider of this almost luxurious amounts of entertainment and media and everything like that other places in the world just didn't have access to. And now China's quickly eating that up.
It was the way you won the Cold War. Like, the big political analysis of all this is because like America became the cultural setter, like they
Yep.
determined what was cool, largely because that's how they won the Cold War. It's because that was the whole point. It was to show that capitalism is better than communism and like really win culturally. And then, as I already said, like with the perception of our government going down, and a lot of other things just getting kind of shitty for people day to day in the U.S. It's now like, well, fuck these guys. I'm going to go check out and really re-examine a lot of propaganda I've been told my entire life about other places and countries. And China seeing that, the right political move you make is like, well, let's make it really easy. Let's make it like super out and about public. Uh, and like the one that is a little harder for governments to deal with is the big movement that was Red Note, where people were
Yeah.
going on an exclusive Chinese like alternate of TikTok, and then we're realizing, oh, all these people are like super chill, and it was like a really fun melding of culture and people just learning about each other. And it was very nice to see. Like one of those rare moments where like it wasn't because it wasn't on super long, it was largely positive. Uh, and then ever since then, it's just like, well, shit, I'm going to engage more and more with this. And then the more the U.S. tries to push against the more people are going to rebel because it's I think the culmination point is the selling of TikTok. That being a whole big thing in the U.S. of we have to get it out of their hands, and seeing how embarrassing those congressional hearings were, is
Yeah.
pushing more and more people into embracing it.
Yeah, well, and it's also just accessibility is the biggest thing. It's how any market opens up. People care about things when they have ease of access to it, because you could get cultivator stories. You could watch Chinese media, in the 90s. That was easy. Well, not
Yeah,
easy, but you could do it, but it required a few extra steps that most people weren't willing to take. Now people don't need to make those steps. So, it, it all boils down to markets. Markets move nations, and that's just kind of how it is. And is closed off as most nations try to be, unless you're going to extreme lengths. Eventually, it starts breaking down, and things start getting international and cross cultural. So, as far as TTRPGs are concerned, though, it's a really good time because TTRPGs are now being viewed as something that are valuable. You know, they're being something that a lot of people are talking about. People are still interested in it despite the boom happening over 10 years ago now, which is crazy to think that tabletop has been relatively popular in the world for 10 years. It doesn't feel like that, especially for people who've been in the hobby for a lot longer. But yeah, like from a home standard, people know about tabletop and have known about tabletop in a much bigger spectrum for 10 years, which is insane. And we're starting to see growth after that, after a long, like, what's a good way to call it? After seeding the interest for the last like 10 years with D&D, we're now starting to see the prospects and growth from that by other companies. And we're going to see Critical Role's Daggerheart's success